welcome to Walker Tea Review. I'm Jason Walker. Just got back from a trip just recently to Taiwan. There's always more to learn about tea, always more to experience. And although the tea I have in front of me is not a Taiwanese tea, I'm sure there's plenty for us to talk about and look at here. So I'm going to get out enough here. We've got about a 4-ounce gaiwan. As you may be able to tell already, this is a black tea. So I'm going to rake out, or as in the Chinese terminology, this would be considered a red tea. But I'm going to rake out enough to cover that bottom 1.5 inch surface area, bottom of my gaiwan here. Close that up for a while. Come back to that after a few moments. Add my water. It's been brought to a boil, or an early boil, so it started to roll around, bubble up. Now I'm going to add enough here. It's been cooling about a minute or so, but I've added enough so that when I put my lid on, a little bit of water will sit just above that rim there. That looks good. And so while that's steeping and preparing, we can introduce this tea. I'll go ahead and tell you this is from the CaliforniaTeaHouse. This is their YunnanGoldenBuds. CaliforniaTeaHouse offers a 1/2 ounce size like this for $5. And let's go ahead and talk a little about the aspects of the tea: the dry leaf, the wet leaf, the liquor. This is a Dianhong. If you're comparing it to other teas of the same category, Yunnan black teas often have a larger needle tip, or bud, I should say. So that's one of the things to be looking for. And so let's go ahead and give this tea a smell. Some nice aromas, some relatively light. I'm going to breathe, exhale into this tea, put some moisture and some warmth in there. Sometimes that unlocks a little bit of aroma as well. So yes, I do get a light, gentle kind of grape-like or plum-type sweetness there. Not as much of a malt. There is some malty smell, although it's, again, gentler. I'm having to tease the aromas out of this more than others. Let me rake out a little bit into my hand here. Other things that I note here as I kind of look at this dry leaf is, a good portion of it is golden in color. Lots of golden needles, tips, or buds there, I should say. I just picked up a piece in my hand here. It is a leaf and bud set. The leaf, of course, has become more of inside the leaf has become more of a darker chocolate brown, grayish brown, bistre type color. Yet on the outside of that newly open, relatively newly open leaf, there's a lot of still golden, silvery fuzz there. So it's still got that fuzzy component to it. A lot of this looks to be individual needles. I would say, a good portion of this, even up to, say, 60, 70, 75% maybe even, is that individual needle type. And looking at these in comparison to others, the golden aspect, the fuzzy, tippy aspect there, the gold is a bit paler, a bit lighter in color, a bit more on the golden side than, say, like an orangey type color there, or orangey brown, golden brown type color. So that's worth considering or thinking about. Let's go ahead and put this to the side. Talking about those buds, a lot of them are about 1 inch or so in length. So that gives you a point of reference as to size. Some of them can be smaller, but that tells you a little about the size of that. I'm going to go ahead and get ready to pour, so I'm going to angle my lid over to the side a little bit. Get my pitcher ready here. Pour straight in. Looks good. Get those last few drops out, because those are usually the ones that have been down at the bottom, sticking to the leaves. That's going to have a little bit more intense flavor. Go ahead then and smell this. Kind of talk a little about the wet leaf here. Get one more sniff here. Okay. You know, initially, I still note there is more of a maltiness coming out now, along with still some of those kind of traditional characteristic raisin bran. There's kind of a raisiny aspect there. I touched upon that, and kind of akin to that is the grape type smells in the dry leaf there. Again, a toasty kind of aspect there as well with the bran flakes part. Now on my lid here, sometimes you'll get different aromas sticking to the inside of the lid there versus smelling directly from the leaf. The lid gives you a sweeter, maltier type note. The leaves give more of a well, a little bit more of a fruity aspect, a little bit more of a sugary, sweet brown sugar type note coming off in the wet leaf as opposed to the lid. Looking at some of these leaves though, I'm going to go ahead and pull out a few and get these that have stuck to the lid out of the way. Return those to the lid or the bowl there. A set here. I've got a leaf and bud there. Again, that bud is about 1 inch or so in length. Colors have become a bit more consistent, more of a rust, kind of reddish brown type color. Leaves are mostly intact, you know, fairly consistent in color. Not a lot of blotchiness to speak of. And I'm going to press that. That's a nice leaf that has flattened out fairly well. Another leaf bud set, so I'm going to add that here. Actually, 2 leaves and a bud. So one thing I'm noticing here is a variety of leaf styles or sizes here. I do size meaning 1 leaf in a bud, 2 leaves in a bud, individual leaves, individual tips, and the answer to that is yes to all of the above. I see some of all of those. So moving along then, I mean, I still see that there's the fuzzy aspect. You can actually still kind of make out the downy texture on these wet leaves. So I'm going to set that aside and move on then to our liquor here. Let me move that over to the side for just a moment and get ready to talk about this liquor for just a moment. Let me give that a swirl. Hold it up to the light. It's still got a good reddish color there. This one's teetering more towards a kind of brownish red, as opposed to some that have more of a almost plumish, purplish type of red. This one's got a bit more of a earthy, rust, brownish red type color coming off. Okay, let me give it a smell here. Gentle sweetness coming off, still a little bit closer to a raisiny type note there. Let me give this a taste and talk a little bit about that then. Now, I get, generally, compared to other Den Hongs, other YunnanGoldenBuds, tastes and aromas are generally gentler than some of the ones I've looked at recently. But on the other hand, some of the aftertaste, some of the sweetness there is as good, if not even slightly better than some of the ones I've tasted recently. So while you may not get you do get a light, fairly thin, again, raisiny grape component, a little bit of a malty type, and a little bit of brown sugar type sweetness there. Again, quite gentle. Yet on the aftertaste, after I swallow, sweetness builds up. Again, it's not excessively strong sweetness, yet there is a good, steady, fairly long-lasting sweetness there. Astringency, quite low. Texture, again, in that neighborhood of gentle to weak. So there's not a lot of mouth feel to this tea. Although, I take that back. It's a very, again, more on the gentle side, very slight, gently smooth. There is something there. You just kind of have to look for it, but it is there. So when I look at this tea, and I should mention off-camera tastings and current tastings, some Dianhongs, they sit on the stomach and they make my stomach grumble like it's empty. It's growling there, and some people talk about how there's the acidity level of the tea is off when that happens. This particular one, again, right now and off-camera tastings, sat on my stomach better than some others. So when I look at this tea, I would say this tea is decent. I would give it, a decent score. I would give it, I'm teetering somewhere between an 89 and a 90. I'm going to give it the benefit of the doubt and say 90. So it's got some nice qualities. Again, gentler on the flavor, aroma profile, yet got some smoothness to it in the back, in the aftertaste, the sweetness that builds there. The way that it sits on the stomach fairly smoother than some of the others. So come back to Walker Tea Review to find out if you're looking for that tea that sits well in the front, does well in the back, or if you're looking for that whole total package.